Constitution just isn't a relic in a glass case. It's the rule book for America. And it's been running the show since 1789. And at just under 4,500 words, it packs in everything you need to run a nation. And at the heart of it all, 7 articles. 7 building blocks that lay out exactly how powers work, how it's divided, and how it's kept in check. Think of them as the operating system for the United States, designed in 1787, and they still work today. So let's break down the Articles of the Constitution. Welcome to our Republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands,
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
Those 3 hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Article 1, the legislative branch. The framers put Congress first for a reason. They wanted lawmaking to start with people's representatives, not a king, not a judge, not a president. Article 1 creates what's called a bicameral legislation. They'd actually debated they should do maybe 1 house, 3 houses, but what they came up with was the bicameral legislation. The House of Representatives, based on population, and the Senate, 2 per state, no matter the size. That balance came from, well, like we've discussed before, the Great Compromise, which literally kept the convention from collapsing. Congress controls the money. They can declare wars, regulate trade, and they write new laws. It even has the power to impeach the president. So basically, if there's yelling on C-SPAN or CNN or anywhere else, right, or someone's wasting tax dollars, Article 1 is why. And this is just a brief overview, right? We're just doing a really, really brief overview. We're going to go into each article in depth and everything. And like I said, do your own research, read the articles, read the Constitution yourself, but let's keep going. Article 2, the executive branch. Next up, the president. The framers wanted someone strong enough to enforce the laws and command the military, but not so strong they became King George 2.0. Article 2 lays out how the president is chosen via the Electoral College, the powers he holds, commander-in-chief, treaty maker, veto power, and the limits on those powers. The job description is basically lead the nation, protect the people, and try not to start a dictatorship. And here's a real interesting fact. The Constitution never actually says how many terms the president can serve. That tradition started with Washington and wasn't formalized until the 22nd Amendment, which we'll get to. Article 3, the judicial branch. Article 3 is short, but don't underestimate it. It sets up the Supreme Court and allows Congress to create lower federal courts. Judges get lifetime appointments, by which is why the arguments over the Supreme Court are super fierce. But they're lifetime appointments based on good behavior. Anyway. The court's power is to strike down unconstitutional law, right? That's under judicial review, which wasn't added here. That came later under Marbury versus Madison in 1803. Still, this article is what gives the 9 people in the black robes the final say on everything from free speech to civil rights and who wins in disputes on election. Article 4, relations among states. Articles of the Confederation had let states behave like squabbling siblings, right? Article 4 said, that's enough. The full faith and credit clause required states to respect each other's laws, court rulings, and official records. So yes, your marriage license or your driver's license has to be recognized across state lines. It's unfortunately, concealed carry aren't. That's a huge debate, but whatever, we'll get to that. But it also guarantees every state a Republican form of government and promises federal protection against invasion, domestic violence, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, you're just not 13 separate countries, you're a union, and you've got each other's backs. That's really what it means. Article 5, amending the constitutions. The Constitution. The framers were not ignorant or arrogant. They may have been ignorant, but they weren't arrogant. They knew the Constitution wasn't perfect. So Article 5 lays out a way to change the Constitution. Amendments require serious buy-in, 2/3 of Congress or state conventions to propose, and 3/4 of states to ratify. That's why in 249 years, we've only had 27 amendments. But in the Constitution, it's flexible. It's not flimsy, right? A system tough enough to last, but it's adaptable when needed. Let's go to Article 6, national supremacy. This one is a furious cause of debate, especially in my own home. This is a short one, but it's very powerful. The Constitution and federal laws are the supreme law of the land. States cannot override them. It also bans any religious test for public office and requires all officials to swear an oath to the Constitution itself. Loyalty isn't to a person, a party, or even a state. And I think some people that are elected officials right now need to remember that, right? The Constitution is the rule book. This article is why, when push comes to shove, federal authority outranks local squabbles. Article 7, the ratification. I got a nose itch. Sorry about that. Finally, Article 7 says the Constitution goes into effect once 9 states ratify it. Not 13, not all of them, not unanimous, just 9. That lowered the bar enough to make it actually possible. But it still took a bruising in battles and conventions across the country, right? We talked Delaware ratified first in 1787, and Rhode Island dragged its feet until 1790. But once 9 said yes, the new government was officially born. So that's it, the 7 articles, the foundation of the government that lasted longer than any other written constitution in history. One that was debated, fought over, compromised into existence. They gave America a legislature with power, an executive with limits, and a judiciary with independence, and a system that could adapt without falling apart. The framers didn't make it perfect. They made it durable. And 2 centuries later, its framework is still standing, even after wars, crises, and a few more attempts to even break it. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I know, again, I said these episodes are going to be a little short. But remember, history isn't boring, especially when 7 articles hammered out in a sweaty Philadelphia summer ended up creating the blueprint for the most durable republic in human history. See you next time.